it. You play to win the game.
Coming at you live in the heart of Lincoln, America.
I say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
On air and online at theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Jake Bakoven and Enrique Alvarez-Clary.
We're back for another week here on the Ticket Water Cooler. It will be actually one of our final Monday appearances because Adam Carricker will be taking over. I think, is it next week or pretty soon?
Is the 10th next week?
The 10th is next week.
Then next week.
Next week, you will be hearing Adam Carricker's voice, just one.
Voices.
He might have some different impressions. I'm not really sure, but he will bring his voice to the Ticket. We couldn't be more excited for that. Again, it'll be from 12 to 1 every Monday, which bumps us back a little bit till Tuesday, but that's fine. That feels good.
It's
for us
fine.
here on the Ticket Water Cooler. Yeah, we're fine.
I'm fine.
That's great.
I'm fine.
But
okay.
it is going to be kind of cool because then we can wait for all the weekend sports. We can bring it back up on Tuesday.
There you go. We'll talk about everything that was talked about on Monday on Tuesday.
Yeah, that will be perfect. But it is kind of fun to do the Monday shows, or the shows after the weekends, especially busy weekends like this. Of course, we'll have the championship game tonight between San Diego State and UConn. We'll talk a little bit about that later. You have to stay up for that one. I believe the tip-off is like after 8 o'clock.
It's super late for whatever reason.
I have no clue why they do that.
They were just like, you know what we should do? Make it as late as possible.
Yes. That way, they like having the distinction of at the beginning of the tournament, you get less work done those days, and then the other day they're like, all right, let's take the Tuesday after the championship game and try to do that as well because we'll have everybody stay up late for that game.
8:20 p.m. Central Time tip.
That's the tip.
That's tip.
8:20.
8:20.
It seems like it's getting later every year. Like I used to complain when it was at 8, but they're even moving it back to 8:20.
They're doing that for San Diego State for those fans, so they can start watching the game at 6:20 Central Time.
The UConn fans are really gonna be
sorry about
hurt
it
for this. Yeah, this is not.
This
good
is
for
the largest distance between competitors in the championship game in tournament history.
Is it
in the championship game?
Yeah.
So that's fun. They're opposite coasts. San Diego and Connecticut.
Yeah, the Battle of the Coast. Not necessarily the teams that you would usually pick to represent the coast, but they've got it done. So we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. I did want to open up with the Husker news over the weekend. I mentioned it there at the end of the captain here. A commitment. Gibson Pyle, 3-star offensive lineman from Texas, has committed to the Nebraska Huskers for 2024. He stands 6'4", 285 pounds, and is the number 2 commitment in the class, joining 4-star athlete Roger Gradney. Had offers from USC, Ole Miss, North Carolina, Colorado, Kansas State, among others. And all that is pretty good news. And I hope Gibson Pyle is going to come out and be a strong contributor to this team. It's just interesting in that Nebraska seems to be hitting Texas pretty hard early in the Matt Rule era. I saw a stat out there that they've got as many Texas recruits as Frost did throughout his time at Nebraska.
Jeez.
And there's a debate among the Husker community, among just people in general, because the national fan base landscape would say that, if Nebraska stopped being able to recruit Texas, but then if you go back and look at it, how many guys were actually from Texas when Nebraska was in the Big 12? If you're thinking about the Big 8 days, then they didn't even play in the state of Texas. So it's kind of interesting there, but no doubt one way or the other, not a bad state to go. I always say you can't just pick any team from Texas there, any guy from Texas,
no.
And, so you can kind of mess with the statistics there a little bit, but Nebraska getting back into Texas pretty heavily. No surprise here. Bob Wager, a Texas high school coach there for so many years, but just that in general, are you, which kind of side do you sit on? Do you think that that's been something that's missing at Nebraska for the last several years?
I think the amount of Texas kids and probably the level of Texas kids that Nebraska has been able to pull since they moved to the Big Ten has kind of dropped off from their time in the Big 12 and the Big 8. But, it's not like they weren't targeting Texas. It's not like they weren't getting kids from Texas. It just wouldn't be to this level. It'd be like one or two a cycle where they would dip into Texas and pull out some recruits, but they wouldn't be the high level of guys that they were probably used to getting. And now with Matt Rule's strong ties to the Texas area, his know-how and his connections with with a lot of the high school coaches down in the Texas area, Nebraska will get back into it. I don't think that it's, you can always say that, especially with the way that Nebraska has played, that's the reason that they haven't been good, that, they haven't been getting the guys from Texas. But I don't think you need to go into Texas and recruit there to win anywhere, unless you're in Texas. Of course, I think you should try to keep those guys there. But I don't think Nebraska needs to recruit there if they're doing well, on the West Coast in California, in the East Coast, in the DMV area, if they're dipping into Florida and Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, those states in the South, if they're going to Arizona, if you're getting good kids wherever, they're going to be good. They're going to be good athletes for you. I don't think you need to have a team filled with guys from Texas to be successful. It does help though, because that state does have a ton of athletes.
Yeah, and it's a year-long. Texas high school football is very the biggest it is in any place in the country. So I mean, I think just culturally, I think that's kind of a fit, right? Because a lot of those guys, they're in communities that live and breathe high school football.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to, you take a visit to Nebraska. Like, this place lives and breathes college football.
Yeah.
So I think that there could be a good cultural fit there. I think like different coaches have had different pipeline states or whatever, the kind of the Calabrasca movement with Coach Riley. Scott Frost was trying to dig into Florida. And one way or the other, whether they got the biggest recruits out of there that they were going for,
mm-hmm.
or they at least were bringing those guys along. And I don't think you look back and say, well, Calabrasca didn't work, so let's stop taking California kids. And,
mm-hmm.
and Scott couldn't get any, of these major states. I mean, California, Florida, Texas. You want to have you want to have your pole in the water, your fishing pole in the water, I suppose, in all of those states. So if you've got a special connection down there with your head coach or an assistant coach, whatever the case may be, the more the better. And I think that it can be good. I think that it's a little bit overblown, that narrative that Nebraska hasn't been good since they've left the Big 12 and haven't been able to recruit Texas. Again, I think, and maybe it works hand in hand at some point, but I think the biggest thing is since you joined the Big 10, you haven't had very good line play.
Mm-hmm.
Very spotty here and there. Once in a while you have a good line, but and I'm talking offense and defense. And so I mean that's been
that's not just a Texas thing. You aren't just going to Texas to bring offensive linemen. That's just a recruiting misses and just timing mistakes, because like you just said, you'd have guys on certain teams who are really good, they'd end up graduating, and then the next year's offensive line, you'd have a guy on the other side or someone next to him that would have been really good. And you're like, oh man, would have been really good to pair these three up together, but it just wasn't meant to be for Nebraska. And again, that's not like you're going into Texas and grabbing offensive linemen and that's the reason you've been bad. That's a lot of the successful offensive linemen might be from that 500-mile radius. It might be, guys from the state of Wisconsin or Michigan or Iowa or Nebraska that you just haven't hit on, or that have gone to other universities, or you haven't developed correctly when they got to the university. So it's not all Texas, the state of Texas, to blame for Nebraska's inability to compete at a high level in football. It does help to get kids from Texas, but I don't think leaving the Big 12 and losing your pipeline to Texas is the reason for all of the losses.
Yeah, and I do think too that, and it's something that we don't maybe mention enough in defense of Bo Pelini too, is switching conferences. I mean, he had that thing built and ready to roll, especially on the defensive side, of course. For Big 12 football, and then switching over to the Big 10, you just haven't had nearly as much success. That's kind of when the rails started to come loose a little bit for Pelini. When you started to have blowout losses, is when you went over to the Big 10, and they just weren't built for it, and really haven't been able to do so. That's what I like about Matt Rule, though, is I think that there's an understanding of that. I don't know if they have the best. They've got a good track record. I don't know if they have the best track record. You can't just say, okay, I understand lines are important, and then just be good at it automatically. You need to have the right guys in place to develop them, and of course get the kids in. But I'm feeling pretty good about the recruiting ability from not just Rule, which of course the big weekend everybody's kind of saying, but some of these assistants too, are kind of key in doing it. Again, Donovan Raiola right up there with this guy, Gibson Pyle.
Getting Gibson Pyle from Texas is I want to say it's a massive get. I mean, it's another offensive lineman. It's a pretty, I don't know. Yeah, I just saw somebody put highly touted because they were talking about Corcoran and Benhart. I don't know if Gibson Pyle is highly touted, but he is sought after by some universities that have put together some really good offensive linemen and put some offensive linemen in the league. So, and I know, some people don't want to look at the other offers and be like, oh, well, if he was offered by this place, then obviously he was going to be good.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get a guy, you sneak a guy in that was offered by a high level university and it doesn't pan out. So,
do you remember David Neville?
I do not remember.
David Neville was awesome because he was a giant. He was like 6'8", and Alabama gave him an offer, but this was like 2014 when he was playing, in that era. And it was just like, no matter what, whenever you talked about David Neville, it's like, oh, Alabama offered him.
I know there was a couple. There was one guy from a couple recruiting classes ago, maybe not that long ago, that was offered by Clemson late. And everybody he committed to Nebraska even after the Clemson offer. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to be great." I think he transferred after his freshman year.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't remember his name, and it doesn't
schools
matter. But yeah, sometimes those schools and who knows? Maybe he would have gone to Clemson and he would have been good because Nebraska hasn't developed an offensive lineman in quite some time. So you never know. You could have a guy who, if he would have gone somewhere else, would have been great. If he would have came to Nebraska, maybe wouldn't have panned out. And that's just part of the recruiting process. Is not only is this guy really good in high school and he has the skill set to that might translate over to the collegiate ranks, but do you have the know-how to get his skill set not only to not only use his skill set properly, but to enhance his skill set so that he helps you win games? That's the part of the recruiting process that's just been missed at Nebraska. Is you get guys that are highly touted, you get guys that are extremely talented in high school, but then they get to Nebraska and it seems as if their talent doesn't disappear, but it's not magnified for Nebraska.
Not maximizing that return for certain. Ray says, has Bach never fished before? You don't throw your pole in the water. That's probably true. Yeah,
you sure about that?
I didn't say that very well. Not a big fisherman though. The most success I've had, I think, is putting corn, using corn as bait.
That works.
Yeah,
very well.
It's not too bad. Are you a corn guy yourself?
I've used it before. I've used worms, corn, the fake worm. I don't know what they're called. The little fake worms with the hooks in them and all that. I've used a bunch of different things.
Yeah. Are you a big fisherman?
I used to fish a lot. I have not fished in quite some time. It's not like I was like, catching the fish and eating them or anything. I was just catching the fish, catch and release. I catch it, feel really good about myself, and then put it back in the water.
Well, that's what I say about fishing is that, I like catching fish, but I don't have the patience.
It's fun.
I'm an action type of
It's
guy.
fun. Well, I did it when I was younger, so I haven't done it since I've been old enough to drink. So I'm sure that would make it a lot more interesting just to kind of sit there in a chair, fishing, drinking, talking to people. But for me, it was when I was younger. It's just, you throw it in there and you're very impatient. So you're throwing your line in the water and then you're just immediately reeling it in. You're like, oh, there's nothing on this. I don't know what's going on. They're like, no, you have to leave it. I'm like, oh, why would I do that?
Yeah. Well, it's some people love it. I don't knock anybody for loving it. I don't mind it. But again, I really like catching the fish. I don't like fishing. Just catching. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the scrimmage session from this past week. And, of course, the March Madness coming to a conclusion. Also, a big upset in the NBA. Yes, that's possible in regular season NBA basketball. We'll talk about that. And UFC and WWE are combining to create one company. What does that mean? We'll talk about that coming up next. We don't know. All right. Well, we won't know coming up next.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for Ready Mix Concrete, Husker Concrete, and Beatrice Concrete. Nebco offers great pay, medical, and retirement benefits, paid time off, and we pay for CDL training. Apply today to earn an total compensation of $50,000 to $60,000 your first year driving. From Nebco's beginnings in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Herrick Services takes this time to wish everyone a happy Easter.
We hope everyone is able to enjoy time with family and friends during this joyful celebration as we remember what this day and weekend are all about. This important message comes to you from Bart, Mike, and the folks at Herrick Services, your vending specialists here in Lincoln. Their quality service and expertise has earned them a fine reputation. That's Herrick Services, on the air because they care. It's April, and that means the school year is almost over and summer road trips are on the horizon. Stop telling yourself you'll upgrade your car someday and do it now. Mullen Motors Lot is full of great vehicles to take home, so you don't have to worry about your current car barely surviving another road trip. Come check out their lot just north of 48th and Layton and find your next ride, as the road trips are just around the corner. Mullen Motors.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Hey there.
Hi, honey.
Uh-oh.
Remember we told Jamie and Mike about Liberty First Credit Union, how great their checking account and car loans are, the amazing service we get, and how we love being members?
Yeah.
Well, they took our advice. Jamie said how easy it was to move all their accounts and become members. Now they say they're banking with purpose at Liberty First Credit Union.
Learn more about being a member at libertyfirstcu.com. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose. Member NCUA.
Too many people believe that chronic pain, allergies, or illness are permanent and something you're stuck with. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness has been proving that narrative wrong for 29 years and changing lives for the better in the process. Their team is trained in the newest, most advanced pain-relieving techniques and ways to deal with toxins, allergies, pollution, and emotion that make you ill. Call today for a free consultation at 531-254-5695 or go to novotnynutritionandwellness.com. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness, located at 7th and Superior.
Hi, Sean Callahan here with Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and it is Truck Month at Koppel, and we are pulling out all of the stops for this gigantic event. The lots are starting to fill, and we have some great deals for you waiting in Louisville. Brand new GMC Sierra Light Duty and new Silverado Light Duty trucks. All trim levels have up to $4,000 in discounts. That's right, up to $4,000 off all new light duty trucks right now at Koppel, so do not wait. Now is the time to buy a new truck, so stop on in or visit us online at koppelcars.com. You must have a trade-in and finance with Koppel. All deals with Brew Credit.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is now open in Lincoln. Shop our expansive collection of wine, beer, spirits, and cigars at 5040 North 27th Street. From top shelf liquor to crowd favorite beer, Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits has a beverage for every taste and every budget. Plus, join our loyalty program to earn rewards and save on future purchases. Shop Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits at 5040 North 27th Street in Lincoln. That's 5040 North 27th Street.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful.
I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sure.
Sauter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SauterHeyman.com.
Integrated Life Choices has been inspiring opportunities for individuals with disabilities for more than 15 years in Lincoln by offering a number of services. From group homes for special needs adults to independent living resources and job training, you'll find the intellectual and developmental disability services your loved one needs to live a fulfilling life. They're also hiring. If you're looking for a more rewarding career, learn more about available positions. Learn more about services for your loved ones or employment today at ilc.net. Integrated Life Choices.
One of the Nebraska Lottery's most explosively fun promotions is back. Cash Blast. Until April 18th, buy a 2x2 ticket, enter the voucher number, and you could win $5,000 or $500. If your winning voucher is from a 7-day draw ticket or a multiple of 7 ticket, your prize is doubled. There will be 7 weekly drawings and 14 total winners in Cash Blast. So play today. You'll have a blast. But that goes without saying. 2x2 top prize odds, 1 in 105,000.
To demonstrate the big variety of Nebraska Lottery scratch games,
this commercial will feature
10 different announcers.
We launch new tickets every month
with prices that range from $1 to $20.
And top prizes of up to $200,000.
You can choose from play styles like bingo,
crossword,
quick sevens,
gem and slot theme games,
and holiday games.
Thanks, everybody. Lunch is in the break room. 10 different kinds of pizza.
Yeah!
Nebraska Lottery Scratch Games. Top prize odds vary by game.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, partly sunny skies and breezy conditions. We'll see a high of around 60. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Do have a slight chance of rain later on tonight. See a low around 44. And tomorrow, partly sunny skies again. Breezy and very warm tomorrow. We'll see a high of around 80. I'm meteorologist Kyle Flicker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on the Ticket Water Cooler on a Monday and talking some Husker football like you guys like to talk about. Well, of course, we got some other stuff to talk about as well. Men's basketball championship coming to an end tonight. The women's basketball championship came to an end last night. And, of course, everybody's talking about the game and how competitive it was. And, oh, wait, no, they're just talking about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese doing John Cena You Can't See Me moves.
I have no problems with it.
Yeah. I don't either.
Nobody's in the wrong.
No.
That's fine. You can be upset about it. I don't know why you would be.
This is the people that hate bat flips.
Yeah.
That hate this. Yeah. People are having fun and you hate fun.
How dare you?
Yeah. Well, it's disrespectful. That's not good sportsmanship. It's fine. Everybody does it.
Well, she beat her. So
yeah.
they've both been big talkers all year.
And yeah,
they're
and
both very cocky. And one last for the people that say that Caitlin Clark never did it in anybody's face. She did it directly. It wasn't to Iowa's bench. I don't care what anybody says. Watch it. Haley Van Lith was walking right by her, and she does it and kind of stares at her, and then looks at her bench. That was directly to Haley Van Lith. She also said during that game, "Shut up, you're down by 15 points."
That's right. She did.
Like directly to her face.
Yeah, that's part of the Caitlin Clark thing. That's kind of what makes her partially, it's not, she's a great player, scores a bunch. I get all of that, but part of the entertainment factor is, kind of
her showmanship.
Her showmanship. Yeah.
She does that. She did it at Nebraska. She hit a bucket. She turned around to the crowd, put her hands up. They called a timeout, and she started to walk. She put her hand to her ear, like she was like, "Come on, like I can't hear you." Like
Right.
she was doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's part of the game. It's trash talk. It happens, and if you trash talk a lot and you go up against another trash talker and you lose, you're going to get a lot more trash talk because that's just how it is. Nobody knows what was said on the court between the two. I'm sure there was trash talk going on the entire game. And Angel Reese came out on top. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not even mad about it.
But Twitter had to argue about it forever. So I don't know.
Yeah. And they're going to continue to argue about it. Whatever.
Yeah.
There's other things during that or before that game that people are arguing about. It's ridiculous.
Did you watch a majority of the game?
I missed the first quarter because it was such a beautiful day that we were out cleaning our cars, and I was oh snap, the game started. Because who starts a national championship at 3:00?
That was kind of strange as well.
Like, what are you doing?
It's better than the 8:20 tip
It
time
is.
tonight.
It is better than 8:20, but it should have been later. But I missed the first quarter, but I caught the rest of it.
Yeah.
Was
it poorly officiated? Because I watched. I saw some highlights where I could argue here and there, but I didn't watch enough of it to say to honestly, because I know there was a big complaint from the Iowa fan base.
There were a lot of calls that probably shouldn't have been called. It again, both ways. Maybe the physicality of LSU was a little more allowed than Iowa's. There was one point where an LSU player got called for like a hooking or like an offensive foul when she like turned to like spin around Sonano, and then the very next play Sonano did the same thing and no foul was called. So there was that. Kim Mulkey was on the court most of the game.
That one I thought was
ran into the ref and didn't get anything, which I was very confused about. She probably should have gotten teed up a couple of times. There was the one that people are upset about, the tee on Caitlin Clark. So they didn't tee her up for throwing the ball behind her. They teed her up because earlier in the game they had been called for a delay of game warning for scoring the bucket and like the ball going away from the referee. When she did that, there was no ref there. So they called the tee for a delay of game. It just happened to be her. If somebody else would have done it on Iowa, they would have got teed up as well.
Because they already warned them.
Yeah, because they had already warned them. So the tee wasn't for the emotion and throwing the ball. The tee was for the ball not going to a referee in a timely manner. So that's what it was. If the camera person wasn't there, the court's raised, it would have gone off the court.
Yeah.
So again, delay a game. That's why.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, it turned some people off. Some people are texting in. You're just missing the point that some people don't want showmanship in sports. They don't want trash talk in sports.
Okay, well, you're boring.
They still.
I'm sorry about it.
Poor sportsmanship. Okay.
If so, I mean, we can ask some of the guys from the 90s how much trash they talked.
Yeah.
Were we okay with that? Yeah, we were.
Well,
when it's your team doing the trash talking, or when it's a team that you want to win doing the trash talking, you have no problem with it. But when it's somebody doing it against you, all of a sudden it's a problem. I'll admit, sometimes it frustrates me. Like Caitlin Clark going against Nebraska and she was talking trash. I was like, how dare she? How dare she? But at the same time, I'm sitting there and I go, if Jazz Shelley hit that same shot and was doing the same thing, I'd be like, yes. Yeah, perfect. Keep it going. So I understand why some people are upset about it, but it's not classless. It's not trashy. It's just a part of the game. And that's just what it's these high level athletes are competing at the highest level. And sometimes their emotions get the best of them.
Yeah.
This is what happens. And honestly, that's who those two are. That's Caitlin Clark, again, all season is a showman, a showwoman. She'll make a shot and she'll turn to the crowd, put her arms up, are you not entertained style. Angel Reese has been the same way this entire season. She talks. It's what she does. That's the kind of play that she puts up. And for anybody that wants to say she's not that kind of player, I'm sorry. She averaged 23 and 15 this year. Averaged 23 points and 15 rebounds this season. Yeah, Caitlin Clark won Player of the Year, very deserving. But Angel Reese is a beast in her own right.
Mm-hmm.
And she's only a sophomore. So she got 2 more years at LSU.
Yeah,
and people forget she was at Maryland for 2 years. She's from Baltimore, Maryland. She played at Maryland for 2 years, so she played against Caitlin Clark already in the Big Ten. So they're already familiar with each other.
Yeah, it's just interesting because and text lines partially blowing up. I'm just it's crazy to how some people it's just nothing. To other people they're very frustrated by it or have their certain opinions one way or the other. But like you said, especially for me, it's not Draymond Green picking on somebody. These are two people that this is what they do to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Some people find motivation in that. I think it was, I can't remember exactly who it was. It might've been Michael Jordan, but like high level, like best of the best athletes said like, yeah, that guy doesn't believe in me. So I got to prove it to him. And you're just going, you're Michael Jordan. Everybody believes in you.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's the same thing probably that Caitlin Clark at this level. But you got to find ways to motivate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's part of it, you risk the line, you risk getting technical fouls or stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's it's just part of the game. It's a different approach to it, and I don't have any problem with it. But again, people have different opinions.
Nobody had a problem with Caitlin Clark, and this is you can say whatever you want about it. Nobody had and I'm not talking about her doing the "you can't see me" thing. We're past that. Whatever. I still don't think it was fine. Both teams, both players, and nobody had a problem. And I don't have a problem with Caitlin Clark waving off the South Carolina point guard, just not going out to guard her is one thing, but waving her off and just yeah, whatever, I don't care. Like that's showmanship.
Yeah.
That's taunting. That's disrespect. Everybody thought it was cool. I thought it was cool. I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, dude, if she's gonna do that to you, shoot the ball. Like you've got bigs inside that can rebound anything. Just shoot the ball. But again, that's something we didn't have a problem with. But then, Angel Reese, and she didn't follow her around the court. They were inbounding the ball, I believe, and she was just down there working on, trying to get open to get the inbound. And she did the "you can't see me" to Iowa's bench, turned around, did it to Caitlin one more time, and then it was either the end of the game or a timeout was called or something, and that's when she started pointing to her ring finger.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow did that in the championship game for LSU. Everybody thought it was cool.
Yeah. Well, one way or another, maybe LSU can be a villain of the sport. Maybe, Caitlin Clark, maybe she can be, but I think it will help the viewing moving forward. And certainly, like you said, if Angel Reese returns and Caitlin Clark returns, then you've got some building blocks to build around if you're women's basketball. Let's jump into the college basketball game tonight. First meeting since 2011 for San Diego State and UConn. In that game, Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lamb combined for 60 of UConn's 74 points for a 74-67 victory over Kawhi Leonard and the Aztecs. Kawhi only had 12 points in that game. Now, that was when UConn went on their run. They won a national title there. You know me. I'm not just, I'll just pick this team or that team.
Mm-hmm.
I like history. I like keeping up with this stuff. UConn, I will be cheering for them because this game could be somewhat historic for them in a way that they would break a tie with Kansas and have 5 national titles, all since 1999, which is interesting. They would also have be a school since 1999. I always say this about LSU. I don't think you need a great coach to win the national championship at LSU because I've already seen 3 coaches do it. And, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles are fine. Nick Saban's the greatest, but, I don't know if they're the greatest coaches out there. UConn might be stepping into that territory where if you win again tonight, you've won 5 since 1999. It would be with Jim Calhoun, Kevin Ollie, and Dan Hurley. I don't even know if Kevin Ollie
Whatever happened to Kevin Ollie?
Is he even employed anywhere now?
What did Kevin Ollie get fired?
He did get fired. They did not do well after that first run. So it's interesting in that just looking at from historical standpoint. And so if you're looking at like all the titles, to break a tie with Kansas is pretty big. The only schools ahead of UConn, if they win 5 tonight, would tie them first of all with Duke and Indiana, 2 other blue bloods.
Yeah.
North Carolina has 6, Kentucky has 8, and UCLA has 11. Maybe surprising to some, only 15 teams have multiple national championships in college basketball. So next year when you do your bracket, if you want to be on the,
it's actually not that surprising.
Better part, yeah, it's not all that surprising.
It's actually not that surprising.
UCLA took like
UCLA took all of them. So there's that. You know, what UNLV, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, those 4 right there take at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of surprising that it's only 15, but I would be more interested in seeing all of the teams with 1. And just seeing how different they are. They all are.
Well, one of the 15s is San Francisco. So the Dons, that might surprise you.
There you go. That actually does surprise me.
So it's not necessarily all blue bloods either, but you do kind of get to the question, and somebody asked on the text line, Big Bird asks, is UConn a blue blood? Because we usually, when we talk about blue bloods, you have to talk about tradition and how it's been long.
That's
and
kind of what
that.
That's what I was going to ask.
But I mean, if you are surpassing Kansas and tying yourself with Duke and Indiana
in 23 years,
I mean, you might not be a blue blood,
24.
But you certainly are something.
I feel like that would get you into blue blood territory, but that's one of those where, and we've talked about this before, how do you gain blue blood status?
Right.
UConn, it's not like they were bad before and they weren't winning national titles. They were great. They just weren't getting to the top of the mountain. When they were in the Big East before it was this version of the Big East before, because they're still in the Big East, they were, they were running that conference for a while, or they were near the top of that conference for a while. They just didn't win national titles year in and year out or at all until, 1999. So I don't know. That's just a question of, can you add new blue bloods, or how do you gain blue blood status?
Right.
I would say that, 5 titles in 24 years, I think that would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but I do think that they should be considered a blue blood, and maybe they should be one way or the other. I mean, what's the difference between 4 and 5? I mean, it's a big difference.
Yeah,
but it's one game tonight, so we'll see. But I mean, I think that's kind of out there. The other thing that's interesting about the game to me is that neither coach. So Hurley is in his 5th season with UConn, and he hadn't won an NCAA tournament game before this year. Brian Dutcher is in his 6th season as the head man at San Diego State. Also had never won an NCAA tournament game before this year. They've been in NCAA tournaments, both of them, but have not won an NCAA tournament game. And then all of a sudden this year, they're meeting up for the championship. So I think that's kind of cool too. Because you never know what's going to happen going into a season or going into a tournament, I suppose.
I did notice they put up one of the coaches, and it was like, however many wins in the NCAA tournament. And I was like, wait a minute. That's as many wins as it takes to get to the national championship. Hold on.
That's as many. That's the only.
I was like, oh, congratulations! All of your tournament wins have come this year.
Yeah. Did history talk get you into the UConn side, or you're still pulling for the Aztecs?
I still want San Diego State to win just because of a rope. That's it.
Yeah.
Just the South Omaha connection. Although, and I will throw this out there, he probably won't agree, but I did say this before the tournament. If any Big East team makes a run, I said it was going to be UConn. I wasn't feeling, when Creighton was making the run, I was like, oh, I guess I was wrong. And there's 2 of them. But I thought UConn. Nick thought Marquette. Look who's laughing now. And even though I didn't choose UConn to win.
UConn's destroyed everybody. It's a weird, very weird. If they get another blowout tonight, we're going to have to talk about one of the all-time most dominating runs through the tournament. In just a weird sense where UConn was, I don't want to say invisible. I mean, they were top 10 going into this tournament. It was kind of the UConn is back. But usually when a team is back, you're kind of like, okay, then in a couple years they can compete again.
Yeah.
UConn's just back and they're going to win a title.
Yeah, and it's not like they were going against a bunch of nobodies either. Like, Iona was a pretty good, even though they're mid-major, they were a pretty good team, beat by double digits. St. Mary's, one of the best teams in the Big West, whatever conference they're in. I don't know which one. West Coast Conference, I think it is. Double digits. Arkansas, one of the more athletic teams this year, and I believe they got up to number one at some point this season. Double digits. Gonzaga, we all know how good Gonzaga is. Double digits. You get to the Final Four, okay, it's a good team. They also made it this far. Double digits against Miami.
Yeah.
The most dominant tournament run, I don't know about ever because I've never seen every tournament, but it's one of the most dominant tournament runs I can remember.
It's weird because it's going to feel right up there. I mean, it's going to be right up there, but I don't know if that's the feel from, of course, the Final Four in this run, but we'll kind of see how it looks. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll get into some Nebraska football talk from the scrimmage over the weekend with Nick Sander as he jumps in for the crossover coming up next.
This is Jay Foreman. I wore gear to protect my health on the football field, and I'm protecting it now by staying up to date with the bivalent COVID vaccine. Get up to date while it's still free and stay protected. Learn more at healthylincoln.org.
Too many people believe that chronic pain, allergies, or illness are permanent and something you're stuck with. Nevada Nutrition and Wellness has been proving that narrative wrong for 29 years and changing lives for the better in the process. Their team is trained in the newest, most advanced pain-relieving techniques and ways to deal with toxins, allergies, pollution, and emotion that make you ill. Call today for a free consultation at 531-254-5695 or go to novotnynutritionandwellness.com. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness, located at 7th and Superior.
If you're in Lincoln, Waverly, or the surrounding area, listen up. Select Plumbing gets it right the first time on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet fix repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate at 402-560-6197. Plus, they're hiring service plumbers. If you're in Lincoln, Waverly, or the surrounding area, contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Veterans, do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Spring sports are here and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Guys, it's really happening. A live morning remote. Join Early Break and The Drive from 6 to 10 a.m. on Thursday and Friday at Double Eagle Golf on West Hill for the first 2 days of the Masters. Bloody Marys, simulator golf, and the Masters. What's better than that? Double Eagle Golf in the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, partly sunny skies and breezy conditions. We'll see a high of around 60. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Do have a slight chance of rain later on tonight. See a low around 44. And tomorrow, partly sunny skies again. Breezy and very warm tomorrow. We'll see a high of around 80. I'm meteorologist Kyle Tucker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for Ready Mix Concrete, Husker Concrete, and Beatrice Concrete. Nebco offers great pay, medical, and retirement benefits, paid time off, and pay for CDL training. Apply today to earn an average total compensation of $50,000 to $60,000 your first year driving. From Nebco's beginnings in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Attention all Wings fans. 89-cent wings are back on Tuesdays at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Lincoln. Enjoy the best wings in town for boneless or traditional at a price that makes the whole family happy. And now at the Williamsburg Village Wings and Rings, you can enjoy $1.50 tall boys in Bud Light, Coors Light, Busch Light, and Michelob Ultra every day after 7 p.m. and all day on Sundays. Get to Wings and Rings today and make sure to stop by on Tuesdays for 89-cent wings.
Hi, John Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Happy to be with you here for the final segment of the Ticket Water Cooler as we preview Happy Hour. Have a little crossover. Bring Nick Sainert in studio along with Rico. He'll join us here momentarily. Of course, we're talking a little bit of Huskers, a little bit of championship games tonight. But I did want to touch on the Huskers real quick. Of course, they had their 90-play first scrimmage session of the season on Saturday. If you're a Husker fan, I'm sure a lot of you saw a lot of the reports that the quarterbacks were taking snaps and hits, including Jeff Sims, Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Richard Torres. Other news from the weekend, center Ben Scott was hurt Thursday. He should just be out for a week or so. Justin Evans Jenkins has been filling in his absence. I thought it was interesting, too. The offense seems to be ahead of the defense, according to Matt Rule at this point. But the defense was not given an advantage because they didn't know that the quarterbacks were going to be live and running until that morning. So they didn't really plan for it. And then the other thing is Tony White wasn't dialing up blitz packages. So it was just kind of the base defense that they're going up against. You guys have any concern about the offense being ahead of the defense, or is this what you should expect when you're kind of putting in a new defense? Although the offense probably has some new wrinkles to it too as well.
I have zero concerns about anything but injuries during springtime.
Yeah.
That is it. That is my final statement.
Well, I think it is. I think that generally you do have, you can't replicate live action, and they do as much as you can here in scrimmage, but I think you will see, hopefully, and the expectation is that the offense and the defense will be better as the season goes on, and I'm just intrigued by that because you have Minnesota right out of the gates, a 9-win program. Now they've lost a lot. It seems like they're losing another guy every week. I open up Twitter, but they lost a lot as far as their 6-year guys that they're keeping around. So obviously Minnesota, not a juggernaut, but a very good team. But the point is you open up with some big games, Minnesota and Colorado, and you're installing offense and defense. We all know like the second year, you can kind of build off that in this time. But right now with install, that's why it's a surprise for anybody to have, too much year one success.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But at the same time, Matt Rule has said that last year was their rebuilding period. And, he can say that all he wants, but at the same time, last year's offense isn't this year's offense. Last year's defense isn't this year's defense. You've added so many new pieces that even if you don't want to say or admit that it's still a rebuilding period or a rebuilding process, it is. And it might be a tough first year. It might be a rough first year. But with the amount of talent that they've amassed, you would hope that it's not as rough of a first year as the last 4 years were.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I like to, and sometimes I think of it as like there's nowhere to go but up. But the one thing that I just kind of think about a lot is, the fact that Nebraska was actually pretty close in a lot of these games. I know we got tired of hearing it and how frustrating it was.
4 years.
One possession games and all that. But I mean, in my mind, and that's why you had the whole joke about being the best, and maybe not a joke to some, be the best 3-9 team of all time.
I hate that.
But either way, to me, there is somewhere. I mean, you can fall further than where Nebraska's been. It doesn't feel like it,
which is it's hard to imagine, but there is a further platform.
Yeah, they just weren't getting bludgeoned to death. You could still get bludgeoned to death.
Yeah, and lose more games.
Yeah. Well, hardly not a whole lot more.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
You could.
That's always the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh, that's as worst. That's as bad as it can get." Well, you won 3. There is a world where you don't win any of them.
Yeah.
That's not the world we're about to live in, though.
Yeah.
You hope so.
You have a season
We're gonna be fine.
upcoming where you play
Nebraska
2 teams that won 1 game last year. One of them was against you.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. How long is the leash for Pat Fitzgerald?
That is interesting.
Unlimited.
I disagree on that one.
It's not
They're
unlimited.
building that new stadium, which is going to be
building the new stadium.
Yeah. Do they need to
have
keep-
a new practice area?
Do you
that's
need to
right on the
keep him
water.
for the first year of the new stadium? I mean, he's done so much for you.
You need to win.
He's done so much for you.
I think you need
You
to
have
win.
to win more. What did he win the last 2 years? 3 games?
Was it 3 last year?
3.
I
It
thought
was
just
one.
one
The
last
last
year.
2 years.
Yeah,
The last
yeah,
2 years.
combined is what I'm saying.
I think.
Oh
3.
yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Is it?
I'm gonna look it up.
Let's say it's less than 4.
Yeah.
It's less than 4. So it's
Yeah.
4 or less.
Yeah.
So I mean, either way,
Not great.
You put it together, and you're 1-11 last year,
3-9. Okay, yeah.
So
3-9
4
2 years ago.
So 4.
So 4 in the last 2 years.
Yep.
I mean, even at Northwestern, but because here's the deal: you see what a guy like Brett Bielema is doing at Illinois, and you go, "Come on now,
We could do this.
yeah, come on, you're Chicago's Big Ten team."
That's what you
right.
say.
So I don't know. I think because you have a lot of positive momentum with the new stadium, with the newer practice facilities.
Mhm.
I mean, can Pat Fitzgerald get it done?
Do you
Can-
bump
can
him-
it get you over that hump, especially in a Big Ten landscape
That's changing.
that's going to be changing a heck of a lot, especially if you. I mean, guys, if Northwestern was in the East,
They'd be done for.
yikes.
Is there a world
they've-
where
go
Pat
ahead.
Fitzgerald agrees to stay on not as a head coach, but like a linebackers coach or a
No.
defensive
I
coordinator?
don't think-
It's his
I
alma
think-
mater. Like
I
he
think-
loves it.
I think Pat Fitzgerald eventually goes to the NFL.
You think
Not
so?
as a head coach,
As like a
but
linebackers
as
coach.
linebackers as some position coach, yeah, because I don't think it's going to work out at Northwestern.
Mm.
The days of Kane Coulter and Trevor Simeon, I think, are over.
I hope they have a better year this year. Obviously, they lose to
Why?
Nebraska, but I hope they have
Yeah.
a better year.
Well, he's still
Because it's fun.
don't
No, it's
forget
not.
they've still won the Big Ten West 2 out of the
They
last
have
5 years.
They have. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now,
How
though.
the mighty
what
have
if-
fallen.
That conversation is not even remotely close to that if they're in the Big Ten East.
Remember when we
No.
said that
But what's
Northwestern
Nebraska
doesn't have
look like
back-to-back
in the
bad
Big Ten
years?
East?
Well, and that's absolutely so. That
Who do they
same
replace?
conversation, though, that same conversation can go for when there's no divisions,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I have a better feeling about Nebraska's potential than Northwestern's without divisions. That's how I feel. Even if Pat Fitzgerald's the head coach in Northwestern.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy with the round robin.
I understand he understands Big Ten.
Yeah.
Like, I get that
Yeah.
part of
He
it.
is Big Ten football.
I understand, but I mean,
You think of
you
Pat
don't-
Fitzgerald,
you
you
don't
think of
have
Big
the
Ten, you think of
recruiting
Pat.
ability right now to contend just off of basic skill,
Mhm.
and you haven't played well the last couple of years. There's not a whole. The only momentum you have is from off the field momentum. I mean, you could say the same for Nebraska.
How many more
Off the
bad
field
years
momentum.
until they fire him?
I think he has to make a bowl game this year.
Do you think a bowl? What if it's
The
what if it's 5 wins
The NFL chatter
with a good win?
Here's the deal: the NFL chatter has gotten more and more louder and louder these last couple years.
Does an NFL team take a
But no,
head coach?
not a head
I'm not
hasn't
saying
won?
that's
No,
I'm
not
not
no
saying
no
as a
no
head
no.
coach.
But
No, I'm
like
not saying
3 years ago, they were talking head.
No,
I
I'm
don't-
not saying
I
that.
don't
I'm saying,
think-
does the NFL take him as a position coach despite all of the losses piling up?
Yes. So here's the thing. Here's why I say that.
How do you spin that to your fans?
Because do NFL fans specifically care about every position coach?
Some do. The diehards do.
Okay, yeah, the diehards, but I mean, here's the deal: they're going to
He's
look
still.
at that.
I mean, he's coached since 2006. He's 110 and 101 at Northwestern.
Yeah,
That's
no,
still. He
well,
still
so-
has a good
So
resume.
here,
Yeah.
I mean, and in that time, you've built and developed a lot of connections with people in the business. The reason I say that is somewhat similar to like Brian Ferentz in Iowa. You're not going to get fired because you don't want that on your face, but you're going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm ready for a new opportunity. It's time for me to move on.
Is it going to be like?
That's how I see the Northwestern separation, if there is one. That's how I see it coming down, because they, unlike Scott Frost, Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald don't really have issues. They just aren't winning.
Is it like how you described people getting fired from Alabama?
Yeah, Nick Saban finds you jobs. You don't get fired unless you are really, really bad, where you don't have the potential to get a new job. Nick Saban finds you a job. That's how it happens.
Never forget last year's Nebraska Northwestern game was somewhat aesthetically pleasing. So people kind of thought, hey, maybe both these teams are better this year. And then Northwestern never won a game after that.
Nope.
How sad is that?
That
was
was
so disappointing.
That was very sad. But it's a new rule. Matt Rule's in town. We'll see how that goes in year one. Happy hour coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket for the Ticket Water Cooler. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM